Hey Eagle fans, it's EaglefanKarl. This is going to be a start of a series of videos I'm going to be doing on sort of a position by position review of the Eagles going into the 27 off season. Like I had said, I'm hoping to have this series done right before the beginning of March when the free agency starts. The way I'm going to be doing it this week, I'm going to be doing offensive backs is what I'm calling them. So basically quarterbacks and running backs. That'll be followed by wide receivers and tight ends. Then I'll be doing the offensive line. And then I'll break the defense up either in 2 or 3 segments in the various positions for them. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Eagles offensive backs this week, mainly obviously being the quarterbacks and running backs. Some of this is going to be a little easy. Some of it's going to be a little more intricate. So let's just go ahead and take a look at each player and where they stand.
And for starters at quarterback, there's really not much of a question here as to what the Eagles are going to do at the quarterback position. They've got their quarterback set for the next decade, and that much was clear the way he played this year. Those of you who have been watching this channel know that I'm a huge Carson Wentz fan. I really believe that he's going to be the answer to what we're going to be doing at quarterback in the probably the next 10, 15 years. So hopefully that will continue to work out and they'll continue to be able to develop him into a premier quarterback. The real question and the real intrigue for the quarterback position for the Eagles comes at the backup position, and specifically what they're going to do both for their backup and for their third string quarterback. And I know a lot of people are down on Chase Daniel as the backup quarterback. They think he costs too much money the Eagle, and he's obviously not that great of a quarterback either. He's career backup in the league and really is probably not going to be able to come in and win games for you if something were to happen. And I would agree with that assessment, but I think this is one where the Eagles are just a victim of the contract that they've got. And we're going to have Chase Daniel as our backup quarterback for the 2017 season. I say that because Chase Daniel counts $8 million against the cap for this coming season, which is a bad number, but it's even worse when you think about what would happen if they cut him. If they cut him, it would actually cost the team $7 million against the cap, which you say, okay, well, there's $1 million savings there. But when you think about the fact that they then have to sign another backup quarterback, it would cost at least that much to probably sign another veteran backup quarterback, if not more so. So it's actually better off just sticking with the contract you've got, despite the fact that it's a bad contract. Now, this is just one of those where you go back and look at what they did last offseason, and it's really a question as to what they were thinking when they signed that deal to begin with. But at this point, there's really nothing we can do about it. You've got to live with it and move on. Just think of it this way. Not only is he one of the highest paid backups in the league, he's probably, basically the way he's functioning, one of the highest paid assistant coaches in the league, because that's really what he's been doing, is helping teach the system that he knows, having worked with Doug Peterson in the past, teaching the system he knows to Carson Wentz. The real next interesting thing that comes up is what you do then as a third string quarterback and what they're going to do to really sort of provide maybe something down the road to replace Chase Daniel. And from that, I think the Eagles probably end up drafting some sort of quarterback in a late round to serve as sort of a project that they can maybe work on, give some reps during the offseason too, and really try and work a third string quarterback in that way. So that's what I would expect them to do at the for the third string quarterback position. That's the quarterback position, so let's go ahead and take a look at running backs. And I'm going to start with one that's probably a little bit easier, and that's Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles has indicated that this is going to be his last season in the league. Given the fact that he's coming off probably one of his more productive years with us, and he was the only guy who was really reliable in terms of being able to play. I'll get to Ryan Matthews in a moment, but his injuries are always a concern. So I really like Darren Sproles as sort of that third down back, sort of a change of pace back. I think he's ideal in that situation. He also gives you the opportunity to return punts. So for that reason, I think bringing back Darren Sproles for his final year in the NFL really ends up being a no-brainer. The real question is what you do with Ryan Matthews and the fact that the biggest knock I have against Ryan Matthews has been his durability. He just cannot make it through a full season healthy. He didn't again this season. And it's sort of one of those things that I think it really ends up hurting his value to the team. When you consider the fact that he would count $5 million in his contract to the team next year, and if they released him, it would only cost them $1 million against the cap. This is a team that does have some cap issues. And for that reason, making a move and releasing him probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. That said, I don't really know what you're going to do to replace him because I hate bringing in free agent running backs. You're not going to want to sign one to a big term deal. I hate that idea, bringing in running backs on long term deals that are free agents because usually as running backs get later in their career, they just have a tendency to potentially break down. So for those reasons, I really don't like bringing a free agent in. So I really think that Ryan Matthews probably, if you're going to replace him, it's going to have to be through the draft, which really brings up the next guy in the conversation, which is Wendell Smallwood, who was a fifth-round pick for us this year. I really think it's a shame that he got hurt at the end of the season because I really think we had the opportunity to really see what he could become and if he could become sort of an every down back. And we don't know that now because of the injury. So for that reason, it's sort of an unknown with him. And I really would like the Eagles to try and see if he could become something. So my preference would be for them to go ahead and release Ryan Matthews as sort of a casualty of the salary cap, keep Wendell Smallwood, and bring someone else in a later round that you can go ahead and once again develop and see if they can turn into something that could become an every down back. So that way you would have two potential young options to sort of fill that role. You would also then have the veteran presence with Darren Sproles as well. So that's sort of what I would think would be the ideal way to go. This does also leave out of the conversation Kenyon Barner, who's actually a free agent at the end of the season, and what they would do with him. And I think he just becomes the odd man out. I know that, my cousin Steven's going to be disappointed to hear this, but I just don't see how they bring him back next year, considering that they are going to have cap issues. And I think that he's just a guy that there's an easier and cheaper way to get someone on the team that can sort of do what he can do. For that reason, I would just go ahead and look to replace Kenyon Barner, like I said, through the draft. So in terms of that, from the running backs, that's what I would see. I would see Darren Sproles being the guy with Wendell Smallwood, and then maybe another rookie that you sort of bring in to sort of fulfill that final third back role.
So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the Eagles quarterbacks and running backs and what I think they should be thinking about going into the 2017 offseason, leading into free agency and then the draft. Now, of course, it is divisional playoff weekend, so I'm going to go ahead and give you some predictions on those games as well. In the Saturday games, I like both the home teams to win. I think the Seahawks are a little bit different team when they get on the road and they have to play the Falcons in Atlanta in that dome where they like to play. So because of that, I like the Falcons to win that game 30-20. The evening game tonight, this is the game that probably has the most likelihood all weekend of being an absolute blowout, and I think it probably will be. I like the Patriots to beat the Texans 38-9. As far as the Sunday games are concerned, I actually like both of the road teams in those games to really give the home teams a good fight in those games, and I actually think the road teams can win both those games. If you didn't know, they did move the Pittsburgh-Kansas City game to a night game as opposed to an afternoon game because of some weather. So in the first of those games, I like the Packers to beat the Cowboys in Dallas 27-23. That might just be wishful thinking, but I'm hoping that that's what happens too. So once again, I'm going to be a huge Packers fan this weekend. Go Pack, go. As for the late game, I also like the road team in that game as well, and I like the Steelers to beat the Chiefs 30-24. So those are my predictions for the games this weekend. Let me know what you think. First of all, obviously about the Eagles, quarterbacks and running backs. What do you think about the teams, the guys that we have on our roster now? Do you think I'm crazy? We should get rid of Chase Daniel and go for another backup? Do you think we should do something different in the running back position with Ryan Matthews or Darren Sproles? Let me know what you think about all that. Also, if you want to give me some predictions for this weekend's games, go ahead and throw those in as well. I'll go ahead and check in next weekend with wide receivers and tight ends. Until then, fly Eagles fly.